Italian resorts destroyed, Brazilian cities buried in ice, an exceptionally rare phenomenon, a burst of waterspouts in Poland, and the Arctic breaking temperature records. The past week brought a series of climate anomalies, behind which lies something far more serious. In this report, we will explain how this something may become one of the most dangerous processes of our time. Russia. Temperature anomalies were once again recorded in the area of the Siberian magmatic plume. The Arctic experienced unprecedented warmth. In the Kara Sea on V's Island on August 20th, the temperature reached plus 11.6 degrees Celsius for the first time, exceeding the previous monthly record by 2.5 degrees. Between August 8th and August 25th, 13 record-breaking temperatures were observed. The abnormal heat was accompanied by a thunderstorm, something extremely unusual for these latitudes and recorded here in the 21st century for only the third time. In the settlement of Zelinda, Yakutia, on August 20th, the air warmed up to plus 27.7 degrees Celsius, breaking the previous daily record. At Cape Sterligova, in the northern part of the Taimyr Peninsula, on the same day the temperature rose to plus 23 degrees Celsius, far above the average daily maximum for the month, which is plus 6.6 degrees Celsius. In Dikson, new temperature records were recorded for 8 days in a row. The peak came on August 24th, when the temperature reached plus 22.6 degrees Celsius, exceeding the average norm by more than 14 degrees. Abnormally high temperatures were also observed in Norilsk, which, according to scientists, is the center of localization of the magmatic plume. According to meteorologists, the average August temperature in Norilsk exceeded that of cities located thousands of kilometers further south. Guinea. On the evening of August 20th, in the commune of Manea, near the Guinean capital, torrential rains triggered a massive landslide. A residential neighborhood at the foot of Mount Kukulima was affected. According to eyewitnesses, everything happened suddenly. It was raining, and suddenly the earth came down from the mountain slope, burying the houses. Under the mass of soil, 22 buildings were buried, including 10 residential ones. Rescue operations involved civil defense units and the military. Dog handlers with service dogs were deployed, heavy machinery was used, while local residents helped clear the rubble by hand. Several people were pulled out alive and taken to medical facilities. Among them was a teenager who had managed to hide when he heard the sound of the landslide. As of August 22nd, 12 people were reported injured, 16 dead, and 10 missing. The tragedy claimed the lives of an entire family, parents and 4 children. Only one young man survived, as he had been on duty several kilometers away from the site of the disaster. Romania. On August 23rd, Romania was hit by the effects of a strong Mediterranean cyclone. 18 counties of the country, including the capital itself, came under the storm's grip. In just one day, the temperature dropped by 10 degrees. Ferocious winds brought down trees and power lines, and more than 70 cars were smashed. Torrents of rain flooded basements and courtyards. On Lake Snegov, located north of Bucharest, 2 people drowned after their boat capsized in the violent storm. In Argeș County, an 18-year-old young man was killed under the debris of a collapsed roof. Italy. In the Italian region of Emilia-Romagna, on August 24th, coastal towns were struck by a powerful storm. Wind gusts reaching up to 122 kilometers per hour toppled trees and billboards, blocking roads and disrupting train traffic. 23 passengers were evacuated from a stranded train. Milano Marittima, one of the most prestigious resorts on the Adriatic coast, was hit hard by the elements. The wind broke umbrellas, pavilions, tore canopies, and knocked down 265 trees. In some areas, drinking water supplies were cut off. The city of Rimini was drenched by torrential rain. Within 6 hours, 74 millimeters of precipitation fell, including 50 millimeters in just 20 minutes. Underground passages and roads were flooded. Within just a few hours, the storm destroyed up to 80% of vegetable crops. Brazil. From August 20th, Rio Grande do Sul was hit by a series of storms. The first was a warm front, bringing wind gusts of more than 100 kilometers per hour, torrential rain, hail, and more than 300,000 lightning strikes. The following cold front intensified the rainfall. As a result, within 2 days, some areas of the central and southern parts of the state received more than 200 millimeters of precipitation. In the basin of the São Lourenço River, up to 300 millimeters were recorded, more than double the monthly norm for August. The river water rose rapidly, flooding more than 2,000 homes. Entire streets turned into rivers, with cars sinking one after another. Rescuers evacuated some residents by boat. More than 500 people were forced to leave their homes. In Porto Alegre, the state capital, 125 millimeters of rain fell within 2 days, more than the usual monthly norm for August. Across the region, numerous consequences of the storm were reported. Floods, damaged roofs, fallen trees, and blocked roads. In Rio Grande do Sul, the authorities were forced to declare a state of emergency. On the morning of August 26th, in the municipality of Castro, Paraná State, a severe hailstorm struck. In just 20 minutes, the area was covered in ice. The natural disaster damaged hundreds of buildings, schools, medical facilities, and sports complexes. A construction store was completely destroyed. A church lost its roof, and at least 600 houses were affected. Ice covered the federal highway PR 151, making it dangerous for traffic. The hailstorm also struck other cities, including Curitiba, the state capital. Yemen. From August 22nd, widespread flooding began in several provinces of Yemen. Long-awaited rains turned into a disaster. In Aden, the country's largest city, floodwaters inundated the first floors of residential neighborhoods. Entire districts were submerged. Mixed with sewage, the water became a source of epidemiological danger. Streets were blocked by rocks and mud, making traffic impossible. Traffic on the international highway between Aden and Taiz was cut off due to a damaged bridge. Locals noted that such rains were observed for the first time in 40 years. In Abyan, 10 members of one family miraculously survived when their car was swept away by a powerful stream of water. They escaped by climbing to higher ground. In Haja, a house collapsed, causing the death of 3 children and injuring their parents. The disaster claimed 14 lives, and dozens of others were injured. The floods also damaged infrastructure and farmland throughout the country, while large numbers of livestock perished. Waterspouts. On August 21st, a burst of large waterspouts was observed over the Baltic Sea, a phenomenon that is extremely rare. Observers reported at least 20 funnels. At least 12 vortices appeared off the coast of Poland. Near the Danish island of Bornholm, a unique episode was recorded. 8 waterspouts lined up in a single row. In Russia, waterspouts were observed for several days in the Baltic Sea. Off the coast of the Kaliningrad region and in the Gulf of Finland near St. Petersburg. Typhoon Kajiki. On August 24th, the city of Senya on China's Hainan Island came under the power of Typhoon Komuri, which brought chaos and destruction. The typhoon set a regional record, with wind gusts exceeding 199 kilometers per hour and rainfall reaching nearly 390 millimeters, the highest levels ever observed. More than 20,000 trees were toppled by the storm, cars were flooded, and in some houses windows were blown out by strong winds. More than 7,000 households were left without water. In total, more than 100,000 residents of Hainan province were affected by the disaster. Weakened to a tropical storm, Komuri still retained destructive power and, on August 25th, struck the central and northern provinces of Vietnam with wind gusts up to 133 kilometers per hour. The destruction spanned vast areas. More than 8,700 houses were damaged, 81,500 hectares of rice fields flooded, and fruit orchards destroyed. Electricity supplies were disrupted for at least 1.6 million people. 7 communes in Quang Tri province were cut off due to landslides and flooded roads. More than 44,000 people were evacuated to safe areas. 8 people were killed by the disaster, 7 in Vietnam and 1 in Thailand. Seismic activity. On Thursday, an earthquake with a magnitude of 7.5 struck in the Drake Passage, approximately 710 kilometers from the city of Ushuaia, Argentina. Initially, the United States Geological Survey estimated the magnitude of this earthquake at 8. The Drake Passage area in 2025 is showing unusually high seismic activity. In the past 25 years, only 51 earthquakes of magnitude 4.5 and higher occurred here, while in just the first 8 months of this year alone, 11 such tremors have already been recorded. 2 of these tremors reached magnitudes above 7, which is extremely unusual for this region, where since 1890, the beginning of instrumental observations, only 3 such earthquakes had ever been recorded. An earthquake with a magnitude of 5.7 struck on August 26th in the Caspian Sea. The hypocenter was located at a depth of 50 kilometers, and the epicenter was near the city of Izberbash. The tremors were felt in Makhachkala, Kaspisk, Derbent, and Buynaksk. Chandeliers swung, dishes rattled, and window panes shook in apartments. Many people, frightened, ran outside and spent the night in the open, fearing aftershocks. Goods fell from store shelves, and on a football field, one of the players was knocked down by the tremors. Seismic waves spread far beyond Dagestan. They were felt in the Astrakhan and Volgograd regions, as well as in Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, and several other countries. Fortunately, there were no fatalities and no significant damage was reported. Seismologists note that the earthquake was not followed by aftershocks, which is uncharacteristic for such events. In their assessment, the energy was not fully released, and a stronger seismic event may occur in the future. Meanwhile, in Kamchatka, seismic activity has not weakened since the M8.8 mega-earthquake on July 30th. More than 12,000 seismic events have been recorded, and their intensity remains high. Since August 25th, earthquakes with magnitudes above 6 have been registered in the Pacific Ocean for 3 consecutive days. Residents of some districts of Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky felt mild tremors. One of the seismic events was particularly powerful, with a magnitude of 6.6.